Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. In ancient times, it was believed the world was inhabited by gods and spirits, but that they had their own abodes connected to, yet apart from the world of mankind. The Norse believed the gods and other supernatural entities lived in their own realms, each connected to one another by the branches of the world tree, Yggdrasil. The Greeks believed their gods made their home far atop Mount Olympus, and in the wild places of the world, away from human civilization, and practically unreachable to mortals. The Celts believed that the gods, spirits, and the fair folk came from a place referred to as the Otherworld, a mystic world set within our own, a realm of everlasting youth, beauty, health, abundance, and joy. Depictions of the Otherworld can vary from region to region, as it was necessarily a subjective world, and poets could only describe it in terms more or less vague, and its exact geographical location, accordingly, differed wildly in the minds of scribes from century to century. Sometimes it was depicted as a subterranean world, entered through mounds and caverns, or hills or mountains, and inhabited by many races and orders of invisible beings, such as demons, shades, fairies, or gods. Other times it was an island or an archipelago, shrouded in thick mist and set far off into the west, beyond charted waters. And in some stories, it is practically another dimension, set within our own dimension. In all versions, the Otherworld was a beautiful paradise, where time moves differently than as we know it, free of pain, of suffering, and wanting. It is a lush landscape with forests and meadows and cool waters, the sun always shining, and flowers perpetually in bloom, even as trees bore fruit. It was a utopia, with an abundance of food and drink, song and merriment, free of disease and harm. Unlike other realms of the immortals in mythology, such as Olympus or Asgard, it was said to be possible for human beings to enter the Otherworld, though the method of which varies from tale to tale. Entrances to the Otherworld are often hidden and difficult to find, but certain worthy people, such as heroes, tricksters, or the brave, manage to reach it through their own efforts, or even by mistake. Others may be invited, or escorted, or taken by one of its dwellers, or even given signs for which to follow. Sometimes entry is gained through ancient burial mounds, or by crossing over or underwater, such as a river, a lake, or the sea itself. Though the Otherworld is not an easy place to travel to, it is said that at certain times of the year, such as Samhain or Beltane, the veil that separates the two worlds grows thinner, easing travel between the two worlds. In Welsh mythology, the Otherworld is called Annwn, and is referenced many times throughout the branches of the Mabinogion. In the first branch of the Mabinogion, in the story of Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, the eponymous prince encountered a pack of white hunting hounds with red ears that had brought down a stag. He drove off the strange hounds and set his own dogs upon it, angering the master of the pack, Arthurian, a king of Annwn. To alleviate Arthurian's anger, Pwyll agreed to spend 1 year and 1 day as him, in an exchange of bodies, with the mission of killing his rival, Afghan, another king of Annwn. Pwyll succeeded in ridding Arthurian of his enemy, and united the two otherworldly realms under his kingship. This exchange of bodies provided Pwyll with the opportunity to sleep with Arann's beautiful wife, a queen and a goddess of sovereignty, who was completely unaware of the exchange and her husband's arrangement throughout the entire year. But Pwyll showed his true character, behaving impeccably with the other man's wife, and choosing not to take advantage of her. As a representative goddess, she embodies the land of Annwn, and in respecting her, he respected the realm and all it stands for, while maintaining his own integrity as ruler of the land of Dyfed. Pwyll would later go on to marry a woman of Annwn, the goddess Rhiannon, with whom he would have a son named Pryderi, cementing his connection with the other world. In Irish mythology, the other world goes by countless different names, such as Tir na Nog or Mag Mell, and it is said to be the home of the Tuatha De Danann, the gods of pre-Christian Ireland. Like Annwn, the other world of Irish lore is also a utopian land of plenty, beyond the reach of most mortals, save for some of the great heroes such as Bran, Cuchulainn, and Finn McCool. Among the most prominent stories featuring Tir na Nog is the tale of Oisin, the son of Finn. In this story, an otherworldly woman named Niamh of the Golden Haired appeared on a magical white horse and proposed marriage to Oisin while he was out on a deer hunt. Oisin accepted, and he was taken to Tir na Nog by Niamh, sitting behind her on the magical horse as it galloped across the surface of the sea. Upon arrival, he found it to be a paradise, and only had to think about his desires for them to manifest before him. However, it was an easy, overindulgent life, and Oisin was a man of action, living his life as a warrior and as a hunter. He longed for the excitement of the hunt, and for several days enjoyed the most exciting of hunts. But it would always end the same perfect way. He became bored and yearned for danger and combat with a foe. His wish was granted, but the fighting was also magically staged, and despite sustaining wounds, he was always magically healed by his wife, showing he was never in any real danger. After spending 3 years in the other world, Oisin longed to return to Ireland to see his friends and family. Niamh reluctantly granted his wish, loaning him her magical white horse, but she warned him he must not touch the soil of Ireland. Upon returning, Oisin found that time had moved on fast since he had left. What had only seemed a short stay in Tir na Nog had been 300 years in the mortal world. Everyone he had known was long dead, and the old gods had been replaced by Christianity, having retreated to the other world long ago. Oisin fell from his horse onto the ground, and he immediately began to rapidly age, and he soon died. From this story, we see the other world as a truly alien place, where the laws of time and nature are wildly different than as we know them to be. We also see that mortals who go there may not be prepared for what is to come, whether it be positive or negative. And should they return from the other world, they will never be the same, should they survive. In Arthurian legend, the other world was referred to as Avalon, also referred to as the Fortunate Isle, or the Island of Apples. First recorded in the works of Sir Geoffrey of Monmouth, Avalon was a mystical island in the west, ruled over by 9 sisters of Fey origin. the appointed leader of whom was the enchantress Morgan Le Fay. The fields there had no need for the plows of the farmers, and all cultivation was lacking except what nature provided. Of its own accord, it produced grain and grapes, and apple trees grew in its woods from the close-clipped grass. The ground of its own accord produced everything instead of merely grass, and the people that lived there lived 100 years or more. Though Avalon makes few appearances in the early texts of Arthurian lore, its power is permeating throughout the stories. Following the Battle of Camlan, where King Arthur fought his final battle and was mortally wounded by Mordred, Arthur was taken to Avalon to have his wounds treated. It is said in some tales that Arthur is still there on Avalon, recovering from his injuries, and resting until the day Britain needs him most. In addition to aspects we have seen in Welsh and Irish legends, Avalon is seen as a place of healing, a refuge from the maelstrom that is the mortal world. The idea of a utopian land ruled by gods and ancient spirits of nature is a concept found in nearly every mythology. In the case of the Celts, that place had a few different variations and more than a few different names to call it, though it was collectively referred to as the Otherworld. Imagine a place in perpetual springtime, where the sun always shines, flowers always in bloom yet bear fruit all the same, free of malevolence, hunger, disease, and even unhappiness. And there you have the Otherworld. From Annwn of the Mabinogion, to Avalon of Arthurian legend, to Tir na Nog of the Irish cycles. The Otherworld was seen as the embodiment of magic, inner peace and elusiveness, ever present in our world, yet somehow always out of our reach.